Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, KayFeine fans, KayFinators, welcome to another exciting episode of KayFeine Conversation.
Good
Hi,
morning.
good morning. Now, we are going to talk about Love Marriage in Huntsville, but before we get there, and Felicia didn't know I was going to do this, I would just like to say congratulations to my dear friend of
Aw.
20 plus years. She graduated from doctorate school yesterday. I could not be there, but I wanted to say, and sometimes I don't think I come across very well in explaining things, and that is get yourself one good friend, a friend that challenges you to be better. I even said to Felicia, whether it was yesterday or Friday, who would have thought this is where we would be 20 plus years later when we met at an elevator company in the break room and became
Mhm.
fast friends, and how we've changed both our lives with education and just having a solid friend that like you can do it, yes you can, and just pushing forward in life. And what I wanted to say is not because of where you start out in life mean that's where you have to linger and stay. You can for
Yes.
sure change the trajectory of your life. And again, I'm sure we all have grandparents and elders in our family that always say, show me your company and I'll tell you who you are. And that is such a true statement.
Mhm.
So if you're hanging out with someone that's progressive, it's either one of two things gonna happen. You're gonna get on the board, get on the plane, on the bus, and be progressive, or you're gonna get off that stop and just F around and find out. And not getting together and understanding what your purpose is in life. And I get it. And I made quite a bit of notes yesterday while I was watching my friend from home graduate, and how life and experiences and trauma can cripple you from not living the life you desire and want. I remember when I graduated high school, and I'm sure I've shared this with Felicia, and I thought I was going to go to college and be an engineer. When we moved to Houston back in the 80s, I think I was like one of maybe five Black
Mhm.
kids in my graduating class of about 200.
Mhm.
I left the Caribbean, started high school here in Houston, and I left the high school in the Caribbean where I was outgoing and social. I was very active in school, to then come to Texas in the 80s feeling very isolated. Nobody's
Wow.
I'm telling you, probably for the 4 years of high school, nobody spoke to me except for
Wow.
one this one Caucasian girl with red hair. And I was just so fascinated by her because she had red hair and she was so beautiful. And I'm going to tell you how life works. And I'm probably going to tear up. But anyway, this girl, and I don't know why her name escapes me now, but I'll come back to that. Always spoke wherever she saw me. Kelly Bradley was her name. One week, and of course, going through high school, all of that, we
Mhm.
graduate. She was heading off to college to be a doctor. One week after graduation in 1986, she was killed in a car accident.
Mhm.
And I everyone in Houston showed up for this girl. That's how popular she was because she was just that nice. And I went to her funeral, standing
Mhm.
room only. And it crippled you. It crippled me. Of course, nobody spoke to you back then about trauma and how things affect you, and that's just life, and you need to move
Yeah.
on. But after that happened, I didn't want to do anything. I just lulled around at home, started college, went one semester, didn't work out. And of course, then we moved around, moved to Florida, then moved back to England and all the rest of it. And then one day you wake up and you realize, oh my gosh, it's been, you finished high school 15, 20 years ago. What are you
Mhm.
doing? You haven't done anything with your life. And
Mhm.
that started me on my, and I went to college and did things that really wasn't my passion. And then finally I found nursing, figured out I can do that. Of course, you get to a point in your life where you just want to do something where you support your community, and one of two things happen. You're able to make a wage, as well as give back to your community.
Mhm.
Fast forward, life, I finish college for nursing, move back to Houston. I'm working at our community hospital, and I'm taking care of a patient, and her last name is Bradley. Older lady talking to me about life and tell me about her children. We just clicked. Just clicked. And then she says to me, I have 3 daughters and I had this beautiful redhead. And I said, oh my gosh, Kelly Bradley. And she's like, you know my daughter? And I went to high school and I told her how wonderful her daughter was to me. And now we're talking about, what's this, probably 30 years later.
Mhm.
And we sat there on the bed and she cried and she held my hand, because of course I'm sure a lot of people who knew her daughter, are not around. And she told me
Yeah.
what really happened to her daughter, that she was in a car with a friend. She said, I never really liked this friend. The friend was driving late at night and went into a diabetic coma, and they went off
Mm.
into a ditch, and
Mm.
her Kelly died.
Mm.
And I thought, and I just wanted to share that. Not, and again, it's about progressing in life, getting to your purpose and living in your purpose. And you don't need a whole bunch of people around you. You need
Absolutely.
1 or 2 good friends that you can depend
Mhm.
on, and who encourages you to be better and push you. If you're having friends where you feel like you're competing, that's not where you want to be. You want to
Mhm.
be, you both have your own talents. And again, I believe if that's what your desire is, don't ever think you can't do something. You can't go to college. Yes, you can. Because I tell people all the time, I went to college with a bunch of people that weren't smart. But you know what the difference is? Being dedicated, being persistent. I tell people always say to me, how do you do it? I said, you do it because, like now, it's a beautiful day outside. Who wants to be stuck at the dinner table, revising, reviewing, and doing schoolwork? No one ever. But at the end of it,
Yeah.
how how sweet is it to have said,
Mhm.
I did that, even
Mhm.
when the cards were stacked against you and you accomplished
Yes.
something. So
Yeah.
that's it for me. That's
Yeah.
where I was at. And I just wanted to say congratulations to my friend, Dr.
Thank you,
Felicia
my friend.
Cobbs. And again,
God
when
is
we met
good.
20 plus years ago, we didn't know this is where we would be. I never saw it, but I just knew that each time I achieved something, I'm like, you know what? You can go further and just keep on
Mhm.
going. Because I'm telling you, I haven't met anyone smarter than me that I thought, well, I can do that,
Mhm.
and just do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
absolutely. And thank you for your encouragement throughout the years and for pushing me and prodding me,
Yes,
and being
that's
that
what it's
friend.
about.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's
Helping each other to level up.
and you exactly.
Mhm.
So I hope this inspires and encourages someone. You know that course that you want to take it, sign up for it. Will it be?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it's easy, and you may have to read the same chapter 50 times before you get it. But what happens if you do succeed? If you do
Yeah.
pass that class and you're able to go on to the next class? And not because you're 18 mean you have to have it all figured out and go to college. Sometimes it may take you going out there and being beat up and by society, and then you realize, no, this isn't for me. I can do better. And,
Yeah.
and I just hope this finds the person that needs it in this moment too. I'm going to sign up for that next class. And now
Yeah.
there really is no excuse, especially with online classes.
Mhm.
As I often tell people, if it wasn't for online classes, I don't think I would be here with
Mhm.
2 postgraduate working on my doctorate now, because
Yeah.
everybody know I hate to leave my house. Listen, probably even if it caught on fire, I'd stay. I'm not leaving. Okay, but just to know that it's don't think of it that you don't need the classroom, because my thing was, why would I want to drive across town, Houston traffic, to go sit in a classroom for someone to talk at me when I can easily sit at home in the comfort of my own home and pull up the screen and do the same thing.
Yeah. And
You
I
know,
want to add, not only go start that class, go start that business, go start writing on that book, whatever it is, just get started on it. And like
get
Kay said,
started.
what if you do succeed? What if you do succeed? I know school is not for everybody, but some of you all have a book inside of you, you have a business inside of you, just waiting to be birthed. You know, let's push and get it out.
Let's get started doing what it is that you truly desire and would like for yourself. And don't ever say you
Yes.
can't do it. If you find like-minded people, you'd be surprised at how they can influence you to be better.
Yeah.
Me, everyone knows that I'm very much a solitary person, and that's just me. I don't like a bunch of people around me, and the older I get, it's become even worse. So
Yeah. And if you say you can't, you won't. If you say you can, guess what? You
exact,
will.
you
Yeah.
will. So I
Life
hope,
and death in the tongue.
yes. So I hope I've done this justice and I inspire someone today to just get started. You never know what you can accomplish, but you have to get started in order to find out what you can do.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree.
So we're gonna move on swiftly to Love Marriage Huntsville, season 6, episode 4, and I hope everyone was able to find the episode because they did tag the episode incorrectly. They still tagged it as season 6, episode 2, but
Hmm.
it's season 6, episode 4, and they call the episode Blaque Exploitation. All right,
Yes.
what was your thoughts about last night episode?
Actually, I love last night's episode. And the reason I love the episode so much is because I can see the light bulb, and you know, because I'm a Marsau fan. It is what it is. Everybody don't like Marsau. I'm a Marsau fan. But you can see the light bulb click last night. When his the person who took over Tish's desk, I don't even know the guy's name, but that guy was having this heart-to-heart conversation with Marsau, and he was saying, man, I wish I had did that with my partner. And he said to him boldly and frankly, look, we're doing ourselves more harm than good by not including her. And he gave the analogy of the sheep and the goat, you know, and I mean the sheep and the wolf. And you want to create a wolf, you don't want to create a sheep. And I thought that was such a great analogy that he used. You can tell that it really got to Marsau. And he was like, you know, your wife needs to be involved in the meeting. She needs to be our check and balances in this decision making process. And when he broke it down one man to another man, I just love that because you know I'm real big, and I tell you this all the time. I'm very big on older women talking to younger women because sometimes we don't have to go through our own mistakes. We can learn from those who went before us. And as Marsau introduced him, he never said the guy's name, I don't think, but as he introduced him, he talked about how much more experience this guy had. So again, you saw this person more experienced trying to teach somebody. And I just thought it was great. You can see the light bulb click in Marsau's head, so much so that he went had a conversation with his wife and like, babe, this is what happened. And you know, I thought I was doing things right, but I wasn't. And to see the look on Tisha's face, like, man, I've been praying for this moment for a long time. And even though I'm not a Tisha fan, just to see her smile and to see the happiness that her husband brought her for once, you know, I just loved it. I love that moment of the show. That moment for me between him and that guy was everything for me last night.
And I hear you. And my thing is it because he's been catching so much heat, he's relented, that he just had to come on TV and say that, or is it going to be a true change?
I think it was a true change because if you think about it, the episodes are pre-recorded. And so he didn't know he was going to get heat. So they recorded this show 6 months ago. So, you know, they do episode after episode after episode. So now he's getting a backlash, but you have to think about all the episodes were already recorded. And so
Mm.
we'll see what will
So you're
happen.
saying it took him 6 seasons to get here and all the backlash from online?
Whatever it takes. You know, some people take a little
I
bit
hope it's a
longer. Yeah,
I hope it's a true change. And I
yeah.
hope other men recognize that too. That when you're
Mhm.
in a partnership, it's not about you. And I tell you this all the time. I don't subscribe to the society norms and society expectations. those things will cripple you into believing it's so and it's not. You are the one that's having this experience in this world, and you want to make sure that you're living the life that you want and not living the life that others are expecting you to do. Because I'm telling you, they're not living it. Whatever the life and the expectation they're putting on you, that's not how they're living. So I always say, be a kind person. It costs nothing to be kind. And I'm gonna put my family business out there. And I always talk about my baby Alexis. And Alexis she had her first baby, and she's pregnant now. She had her first baby at 17. And my mother, her grandmother, gave her boyfriend such a hard time. In fact, he wasn't even allowed in the house. And I would always have these conversations with my mom, is like, one thing we don't do, and I can say this for the Black community. If there's a teenage pregnancy, we go hoop and holler. But at the end of it, what are we going to do? We're going to rally around and we're going to support and we're going to take care of that baby. Right? That's what we're going to do. That's why I'm not trying to get political. You see all this in the news about abortion? That's not what we do. I'm trying to tell you that I'm not saying Black people don't have abortions, but that's not always our first thing. We're going to have the kid. Anyway, now she's gone to college. She's a professional, my niece, and she's working. And she just found out she's pregnant with the second baby. Wonderful. She sent me a text yesterday to say, she worked the night before, got home to take a little sleep so she could take her grandma, my mother, to the doctors. She had a bunch of tests that needed to be done. So she woke up from her slumber like, oh my God, what time is it? No one was home. Only to find out that same boyfriend, he woke up, because he's been allowed now. He moved in this week into the house because she is having the second baby, and took my mom to her doctor's appointment. So
wow, that's beautiful.
So my niece said to me, how times have changed. And it reminded me, like I tell other people, it costs. And I said, and that's why it's so important to be kind. You can be upset, but it does not give you the right to be unkind to people. And my mom really put that boy through some things. I mean, Aaliyah is now 7, so that should tell you, all these years. And it's been a couple of years now that she's sort of like waned. I don't know if it's age or what, because I have gone toe to toe a few rounds with my mom for this. So again, and I don't want to go on and on, but it costs nothing to be kind, people. And watch your words that you say to people. That's so important. You can let people know of your disapproval, but at the end of it, again, there's a lesson that we can all learn from. It doesn't matter, not because you're old, and I always say this, not because you're old mean you need to like on young people. I really try and watch how I come across, especially to young people. You can't demand all this respect and you don't give any in return. So again,
I agree.
Go ahead.
No, one of the things you said before you start talking about Alexa, is that I hope he's really changed and finally he got it. And sometimes it do take a moment for us to get it. And sometimes it does need to come from an outside source, because something I've learned about men is they're not too quick to listen to their wives. I don't know why that is, but it's just the truth of the matter. They don't listen to their wives. And I know even Maurice have tried to talk to Marsau, and sometimes because of the closeness they have as brothers, you know what I'm saying? He probably don't listen to him either. But when you have almost a stranger coming to you, and he didn't come to him in a disrespectful way, he came to him very respectful, man to man, like, bro, this is what it is. You can, receive that. And he did. And to me, I feel like he received it. He got it. His facial expression said everything, that man. And he even said it to the guy, like, man, this is a lot. I got to try to absorb this. And so I think he got it. So sometimes, some of us get it quicker than others, but as long as he got it. And I pray that in future episodes, we will see that he got it.
I hope so.
That's my thing.
And that's my thing. Why marry someone if you feel like you can't speak to them about a situation, a plan, what's going on in the household or at the business, who is going to have your back more than the person that you lay next to?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
so to me, it always like it's not I man hear me roar. It's supposed to be, hey babe, I'm having this issue. Because you're looking for perspective. At least that's what I'm thinking marriage is supposed to
Mhm.
be, that we're on the same thing. It's no different. I mean, it's all around us. It's the same like you're watching a basketball team. It's not the team captain telling everybody what to do. You have four other people, and I'm talking about basketball analogy now, four other people on your team that have a different vantage point that you may not be thinking of. So you have to be able to relent and listen.
Mhm.
And maybe your idea may not be the best idea for
Yeah.
the team, or
It's
maybe down the road it might be.
uh-huh. Something that hit home with me, Tisha said, man, this is something I've been praying for. I'm asking God to help me with this. And so maybe the incident between or whatever brought those two men together, maybe it was God's divine providence to bring them together to help Marsau in his marriage, even though Marsau thinking, hey, this is a business thing. This could just be an answer to Tisha's prayer, praying for her husband, because God has 1,001 ways to bless us. And I think that he just needs somebody like that in his life. And I think
Right.
after this, Marsau is going to have a totally different respect for him, because you don't see I think he loved his brother, but I don't think he respect his brother as much. And he don't respect Martell. But to have this outside source, and something you said that rung a bell with me, is when you say it don't cost anything to be kind. And just like you were talking about your niece and your mom, Jalen had a situation on her rotation this week, and I got so angry, and I had to try to reel it in. And she came home, and she was upset, and I was like, how was your clinical day? And so my daughter is about to graduate in December, and every clinical experience, for those who don't know, my daughter's going to school to be a nurse. She's trying to follow after her mom's footsteps, well, sort of. She's going to take a different path, but either way, she's going to be a nurse come December. And she comes home, she's so excited about her clinical rotations, and for the first time she was like, I had a horrible rotation. And I'm like, what happened? And so about this kindness, it don't cost to be kind. So she said, so our instructor, when we got there, she assigned us to a patient, but she also a patient for us to care for the day. But she also, there were some deliveries that were going to happen. So she assigned two people to go downstairs to watch a C-section. And then the other four students, she put them with four nurses, because the moms were going to have a baby within that shift, so everybody could see a baby being born. What an awesome experience for an OB student to see a live birth. So everybody got to go with a nurse. And so the nurse she assigned my daughter to, she said the nurse just looked at her crazy and stayed at the nursing station forever. So she just stood there waiting on her so she can go into the room with her. And she said when the nurse got ready to get up and go into the room with her, she turns back to look at my daughter and said, why are you following me? Real nasty, no kindness. And she said, well, I was assigned to be with you, for this mom too. She said, no, you need to go take care of your other patient. She said, but my instructor wanted me to go in the room, and she explained to her what the instructor explained to them. And she was like, no, you will not go into this patient's room with me today. Go take care of your other patient. So while her other classmates were able to go see births, everybody but my daughter didn't get that opportunity. And that hurt me so bad, because I'm like, she had to go through this same thing at one point. What if somebody had did her like that? But here it is. Sometimes I think we forget where we come from. But at
Yeah.
one point, you were a nursing student, and how would you have felt if you were in my daughter's shoes? I hate to add color to it, because you know me, I never pulled the race card. But this particular nurse was Caucasian. Of course, my daughter is Black. And because it's few Black people to go to school where my daughter is, the other students were Caucasian, and everybody got their experience except for my African American daughter. And that hurt me to my core, because she could have just been kind, like you said, regardless of her color. And so I said to my daughter, and something that I'm trying to instill in her is to speak up for yourself. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to be nasty. When you see a mean person like that, you always treat them with kindness. You know, kindness killed the cat, my grandmother used to say. And I told her, you should have talked to your instructor. And she said, well, they were, you know, I think they were friends, is what my daughter said. And I said, just because an instructor come on and she's nice to the other nurses don't mean they friends. That means you just build a rapport from coming on that floor every trimester. But even if they were friends, let's say they were, you still could have said to your instructor, hey, this is what happened, very kindly. Is there a way you can assign me to another nurse? Because she have, you know, informed me that I cannot and will not follow her today. And I don't want to miss out on my clinical experience. So I sort of told her how to handle it the next time. And I know that I have to cut that umbilical cord and let her grow up because she's been so shielded, you know what I'm saying? But how hard would that have been, like you said, just to be kind and let
Yes.
her and give my daughter the same opportunity that you had?
Yeah. And there's two things that I want to point out with that. For her, when she makes it to the other side of license, that she remembers that experience and ensure she never give that experience to someone else. Because we tend to do that too. We learn by experience. And sometimes,
Absolutely.
you know, we absorb these poor behaviors and take it into our units, and then it breeds that culture on a unit at the
Mhm.
hospital. So I'm very mindful, especially when I'm in the presence of young people, to make sure, because you know, when my niece was applying for university, and she had that sort of experience just going to an open day, and I wrote a nasty letter to that university, how dare that person treats her that way. So, and they wanted her name and all that, and I'm like, no, this has nothing to do with my niece's name, you know, so they
Mhm.
can then pick her out and treat her unkindly. But I think that should be the theme of our episodes this week. It's about kindness. It costs
Mhm.
nothing,
To
and
be kind.
sometimes, you know, we forget that, and we let how we're feeling either override everything that we know to be true in society. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
anyway,
And
well,
speaking of kindness, do you think that Tisha and Mel were being kind to each other? I like to see
they
that
were,
them trying to move forward and be kind to each other because again, like we keep saying, it costs nothing to be
yeah,
kind. You know, y'all may disagree and y'all may have a certain way you feel about each other, but at the end of the day, you know, why not on the platform that they have created for themselves? Why not you know, display Black excellence? I mean,
yeah.
because and then Tisha said it last night, hey, we got our degrees, we got our businesses, we're doing it. So, you know, why not move forward? But something that I, you know, me, and I'm not always trying to disagree with Mel, because I keep telling people on this podcast that I used to be a Mel fan. But I had to ride with Stormy last night because one of the things, you know, Mel, she did her little thing. She put her little phone in her purse and she walked out of the little spa day. But something that hit me, and I probably because this has been so big in my life with this whole communication thing, I can't stand when two grown people, or if it's two grown people or 10 grown people, can't communicate like adults. I have a problem with that. I always have. It don't sit right in my spirit. And when Stormy said, when Mel did a bow face, she went and put her clothes on, but then she came back again because first she hugged everybody and she made her exit, but then she doubled back and came back and said, you know, forgot what she said, but she was telling everybody bye, and you know, I forgot her thing with them talking. And Stormy said, "I disagree. I think if we have issues, that we should, as adults, be able to talk it out. Because right now, you know, you about to leave, but nobody in the room is mad." She said, "I'm not mad. Y'all mad?" Everybody's like, "No, we not mad." And she was like, "I think that's been the problem with this group, that things happen and it just get pushed up on the rug or get swept to the side and nobody talks about it. And so now we just putting it all out on the table. And with us putting it out on the table, we can move forward." I was like, go, Stormy, go. Because I say that all the time. If there's a problem, let's sit down like adults. Let's talk about it. And even if we talk about it, it doesn't mean that we have to agree. It's okay to disagree, but at least you can move forward knowing where your friends stand. They understand where you stand, and then we can move forward with that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And so Stormy made a good point to Kiki, like, hey, don't come in this spa day trying to bash everybody, you know, for things you said, because that was your cousin at the end of the day. And if you didn't like what the women were saying, don't address us on the spa day. You should have approached us that day and said, hey guys, That's my cousin. I don't like what y'all saying. And better yet, I'm not gonna even participate in the conversation. But you allow people to do that. You put your input in it, and now you want to call everybody out on it, because they mad. And so I was glad that Stormy talked about the importance of communication.
Now,
You know you finna go with Mel. Come on with it.
no, because I agree. But we also have to understand communicating is a skill. And I don't know what it is that people feel like when people are attempted to communicate, they feel it's an attack. Now, and I'm speaking from experience, and I've been through some things, and I think it resonates well with people when you can inject some personal experience into a conversation. Now, my mom, she's elderly now, she's 83, and she's still this way. If, especially as kids, especially as Black people, growing up in a Black household, they don't raise their children to be vocal. And that's something that we really do need to change. That it's do as I say, not as I do. And that is not. I'm sorry, I don't have children, but I don't believe that benefits us in any way. And this is why we now have grown adults who don't know how to communicate. We're going to yell it out, and then at the end of it, nobody's hearing. If I disagree with you, it doesn't mean that I'm angry. It's just that my opinion and my perspective is different than yours. And but and that should be okay. My sister always she always gives this analogy of two brothers raised in a household. The dad is an alcoholic. These two boys grew up in the same household. One son becomes an alcoholic and one becomes super successful. They asked the brother who's an alcoholic, why are you an alcoholic? He said, well, my father's an alcoholic and that's what I saw growing up. So therefore I am an alcoholic. They asked the super successful brother, why are you this way? Well, I grew up with an alcoholic father and I knew I didn't want to be that.
Absolutely.
So we're always going to have our difference of opinion, but there should be enough respect that you allow each other to hear what the other have to say. Yeah. But no, it doesn't have to be all this yelling. But again, communication is definitely a skill. And that's why there's thousands and thousands of books written on communication, because it's not easy. Somebody say something. There's this guy my mom used to date that he would always say, after 6 p.m., the woman who's a lawyer and the woman who is a house cleaner, they're equalized. It doesn't matter what their profession is. You're going to hear what you want to hear. He often said, a guy can say to a woman, I like you, and she hears, I love you. And that's, so those are the things that, and I wish instead of them having kids in high school dragging a baby around, I wish they would teach them how to communicate and the points of communication. And hearing exactly what someone is saying and picking up on body language, looking at what people are doing to understand who that person is, because we all know people can say something, but their actions don't line up with what they're saying.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you said is about sometimes when you're talking to people, they take it as a personal attack instead of really trying to see the person, what they're saying, and seeing their heart and trying to learn that person. They take it as a personal attack. They hear from ears of offense. And because they hear from ears of offense, they get defensive in talking. And what you said about communication skills, communication is a skill, which is why I like what Melody said. When she said that, hey, I'm going to have a tea party and I'm going to have somebody there who teach us about communication skills, who teach us about etiquette. Now, I do like that idea because I do think it's a skill, and I don't think they have been able to communicate with each other, whether it's the husband and wives in the group or whether it's the guys in the group or whether it's all the girls. I do think that would be very beneficial for that group of women to learn communication skills, because sometimes it's your tone, sometimes it's your timing, sometimes it's the words you use. Instead of saying you should say, this is how this made me feel. because nobody can deny how you feel, and they can't take your feelings as a personal attack. But if you say you did this, you did this, you did this, that is a personal attack on somebody. But
Yeah.
when you say, you this is what you did, uh, they defensive. But if you say, well, this is how that made me feel, and I don't even know if you meant it that way, but that's how it made me feel at the
Yeah,
end
for
of the day. So
sure.
I'm glad to see how this tea party is going to turn out
Yeah, for
next week.
sure. And communication definitely needs to be an elective in high school, so
Hmm.
people know children are starting earlier and earlier how to speak to people and understand the words, because
Hmm.
it changes based on your environment. I mean, that's just a fact. And
Hmm.
the household you're grown up, you're raised in, the environment that you live in, how you interpret things. So,
Hmm.
and I think as Black people, I don't, we are not a monolith. We are
Hmm.
definitely a ray of difference, and people need to understand that. And I think uh, Caucasian people, you know what? And let's get a little deep here. We as Black people, as African American, as Caribbean from around the world, because my folks are from the Caribbean, we are always having to understand all the other races. But I don't think other races take that time to understand us as people. And that's so unfair. They see us and they paint us with the same brush.
Yeah.
And when you look back in history, they say they put the narrative out there that they need to fear Black people. But if you look at history, and even in present day, right now, we should be afraid of them for the things that they do and have
Yeah.
done to Black people.
Hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I hate to put everybody in the box because there are some,
I
white
know there's
people that's
some
not like
allies.
that. But I totally agree with what you're saying. We should be afraid.
There's some allies out there who gets it,
Yeah. And
but
who do try to understand us, but the majority do not,
don't.
you know. And like you said, if you look at their resume, you look at their history, we should be very afraid.
Very
Very
afraid.
afraid.
You know,
Yeah.
and
I totally agree.
I don't know how I've even gotten on traffic stops on TikTok, but it keeps coming up on my timeline, and the way they treat us when we should be afraid. They come with guns raised and ready to shoot because you ran a stop sign, and don't think that we should be fearful. And that's
Hmm.
another thing that we need to do. We need to learn the laws so we can stay safe when there is
Hmm.
a traffic stop. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Hmm.
insane. But anyway, this is
Yeah.
supposed to be lighthearted, but again, we're like we say, come for the laughs, stay for the wisdom.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and we can't always make it light and eerie and funny and comedic, because that's just not where we are in our life.
Mhm.
But we are fun, and we're comedians too. I like to cut up, and I hope sometimes I don't know if that translate into things that we talk about, but I hope it does. We're lighthearted too, but
Yeah.
sometimes it can get serious out here in the streets, and we just want our people to be safe, and we want
Absolutely.
us
One
to
thing,
continue to progress.
yeah, and one thing I want to add, because something you said, depending on how we were raised, is how we communicate. But I think at some point, as we grow older and as we mature, that can't even be an excuse. Oh,
Sure,
that's what my mama used to do. That's what
understandable.
my daddy used to do. Because if that's the case, you
Absolutely.
got a lot of first-time college graduates. They can say, well, mama didn't do it, grandmama didn't do it, so I ain't going to school. As we mature, we have to learn better. And as we learn better, we have to do better. And so if you
Absolutely.
know that you weren't raised to communicate, then go, like Melanie said, go take some skills, go read a book. It's too much information out
Absolutely.
there. You got the whole World Wide Web. You got YouTube University. You got TikTok. It's no excuse to not know
Yes.
how to communicate. But just about anything you want to do, you can Google it. It's just, is
Absolutely.
that important to you? Is that important to you to be able to communicate with your spouse? Is it important to you how you communicate with your kids? Is it important to you how you communicate with your family and friends? I know even for me myself, listen to different TED Talks, different books. To talk to my boys just as crazy. You hear me? And they were grown men, and I would still be talking to them like they 11 and 12-year-old boys. But as I learned better, I had to do better. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are grown men. And one thing you know about grown men, they want that respect. So I can't come to them like mama fee, even though I'm their mom. I have to come to them realizing and recognize these are grown men you're talking to. Talk to them with respect. Talk to them with kindness. Because I was always, that mama, you know.
Yeah.
But now when I can come to them and say, son, I understand, you move how you move, but have you tried this? Have you thought about this? Instead of, you better do this, you need to do this. And then,
Yeah.
have you thought about trying this? And the results, guys, are so much better. To the one son that I used to talk to probably twice a year, I talk to every week now because I decided to change my communication skills with him.
Your approach. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my approach and how I communicate with him, and I don't come to him as this fussing, nagging mama. I come to him like, you know, just somebody who loves you and care and that's willing to listen, because that was another thing. I wasn't really hearing them, and however they were feeling in the moment, to me, I just
Yeah.
negated that and be like,
It
whatever, I
doesn't
don't care
matter
how
what.
you feel, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
They said, well, mama, this is how I feel, this I don't care nothing about that, this is the way, but now I try to hear them, and I try to understand where they're coming from, and I try to approach it, well, hey, I understand, but
Yeah.
have you thought about this, because
You
they
have,
have
you have
feelings
to you have to
too.
understand that you've done the work, and you just hope
Mhm.
that what you've taught them over the years stick. And at some point you have to loosen up the reins and let them
Yeah,
go
yeah.
be.
And because I have done that, our relationship, I must say, is better. But again, as you learn better, you have to do better. You can't stay in the same stupid pattern expecting different results, because you're not going to get
Yeah.
different results. It
Yeah.
is what it is. You're not going to get different results.
And you don't want to wake up one day and realize that the children that you birthed don't even like you and don't want to be around you, because
Absolutely.
that's got to be awful. Just an awful
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, how much time we have? Because I know we've talked a lot. We may come back and do a part two. I know we've gone off a little bit from Love Marriage in Huntsville, but when it comes to these life lessons and life gems and tokens that we want to share, sometimes I think that's gonna override Love Marriage in Huntsville, because they're collecting a check, and we're trying to educate and inform our community on
Mhm.
just the things that we've learned over the years, and feeling that we have something to share. And again, I hope it comes across today about being kind,
Mhm.
and living in your purpose. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's a business, whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, going back to
Yeah.
school, getting life skills. Don't put it off. And
Mhm.
and this is one thing I tell people: the road ain't made for everybody. Sometimes you
Mhm.
got to go it alone. Not everybody's going to understand your journey and what you want to do,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
you need to get busy doing it.
Yeah.
Is it better if you have a partner in crime to achieve all these goals with? Yes, but sometimes you'll find your people, and can do it
Absolutely.
alone.
And I always like to leave the K-finators with a question about the show, of course. And I want y'all to leave a comment about, just something kind you have done this year. But I also want y'all to leave a comment of, do you think, because, Tisha and Marsau had a meeting with the comeback group, and they want to get paid. Kimmy and Mel like, hey, we ain't working for free. And so, do you think they should get paid for this Black Business Expo? That's the question I want to leave on the table with our KayFinators today. Let us know what y'all think about that.
I know they spoke about it briefly. I'm sure they're going to speak about it some more. But did you notice when Mel made a reference to it? It's like there was a tone in the room. But once Kimmy got on board, like, hey, wait a minute now. I mean, why wouldn't they ask for a fee to post? I mean, and they're doing it in support and promotion of their business. I mean, that's not how this works.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we're gonna
Yeah.
leave it there this weekend, KayFinators. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got something from this podcast. Leave us
Yeah.
a comment, a share, a like, and let us know what you thought of our this week's episode.
Yeah.
And
And
if
please subscribe.
subscribe, like, comment, share, all those
Mhm.
things. All right, you know where to find us. You can find us on all of our platforms. We're going to leave a link below. Share it with your friends. And again, thank you for listening to KayFeine Conversation.
Bye-bye.
Bye.